Greetings everybody, it's Rob and I'm back with another Pathfinder 2nd edition video, and this time we're taking a deeper dive into the Age of Ashes campaign with Book 2, Cult of Cinders. I did another video previously about Hell Knight Hill, kind of things to look out for as a GM if you're trying to GM this campaign, the first adventure path of Pathfinder 2nd edition. This video will be going into the second book of the campaign, which is Cult of Cinders. First thing, before I get that down to my list, the concept of this book kind of kicks off essentially what is the chunk of the entire campaign. At the very end of the first book, the players find Alcetta's ring, and they should have gained access to it and find at least the portal key to open up the next portal, which essentially opens up this book. This book is primarily based in the Mwengi Expanse, and yes, if you do have the Mwengi Expanse guidebooks, you could use some of that in here to kind of spruce up more of the culture of this area. We did talk about in the last video how a lot of the creatures that came through the portal in the first book were from here, so to play it up in that book. This book, it's more native, so we don't have to worry about that. But let's go down the list and see what things we should be worried about. The first thing to worry about is the opening. Once you get past the opening and get into the actual portal pass, you go to the Elven village of Akriel, which is the main place where they're going to kick off the beginning part of their journey. Now, this first section of the book is basically a social encounter where they have to essentially befriend the elves and go through some of the rituals, try and talk with them, gain some information so they can kind of go on with the actual quest. Depending on how your party may play, you may or may not do good with the social encounters. Try and spruce them up, try and make them fitting for the players. You have everything from a party with matchmaking, you have a wild animal kind of hanging out, to this little sports competition as well, all sorts of different things. And if you play that up with good roleplay, it should be fine. The book does have included in it, essentially, there was 2 or 3 NPCs that the players can kind of work and get more friendly with, and by doing so, they can get additional rewards and stuff with that. I'll be honest, this, depending on how good your party roleplays, you may need to put some either more effort into it or let some things slide. The reason for this being there's 2 or 3 NPCs, and unless they gravitate towards the right NPC, they may ignore some of them flat out. They probably won't ignore Enkiet just because she's the main one that's going to be doing most of the talking probably for the kind of NPC side of things. But other than that, the other 2, I'm not going to say names and stuff, are going to probably need some help to really get them involved with the players. That being said, after you get through all the social encounters, the party may get some benefits and rewards from the village. Otherwise, what they do in the rest of the kind of section for this book will increase their kind of affection score, if you will, and by doing that will maybe get them rewards later on. Now again, these rewards near the end of the book may not be as useful, but it can still be a good thing to have throughout the book. The second thing about this book, and this is the big one, is this book has a Hex Crawl in it. The entire second portion of this book, or really the 2/3 really, is a Hex Crawl where you are pretty much going through this little section of the Mwengi Expanse in the jungle, trying to find the Cinderclaw cultists, the cultists that came through initially, and the ones that kind of attacked the elves in the first place. Now, it goes without saying that the elves will quickly kind of lay out that basically the fortress for the cultists are surrounded by this magical barrier, and they have to take down all these different totems to kind of deactivate the barrier so that your players can go and actually attack the fortress. And that's pretty much the entire section of the book from here on out. That being said, the exploration portion of this is kind of leaves the party left to do what they want. And your party may go all sorts of directions, and depending on where they go, they may stumble into encounters that they probably shouldn't have right away from leaving the village. I think the way the book designs it based on the numbers, they expect you to kind of go down south, because they talk about, if you kind of gather information from the elves, that there's this like elephant tribe down near the southern portion of the map, which they can go explore to gain. They say more hints, but to be honest, there's not much hints there. But it is kind of gives them a general idea to go down and then move their way around the map, kind of. But if they beeline towards kind of where tracks may be coming from, your party may eventually move over towards what is the third thing I want to talk about, and that is the mines. One of the big sections for this book is the Cynical Mines, which they are basically mining gold. It's a dangerous encounter. It's a big map, so be careful about that. And there are a lot of enemies on this map. Now, what makes this map a bit potentially playing correctly, and it may be you may overlook it, but it does state in the book, even though there's so many different groups of enemies here in the mines, they're not really well coordinated at all. The Charaka and bodyguards kind of may be working together. Even the kobold may be working together. But the rock doesn't work with them and will actually scare away other enemies from getting near it. It just keeps them away. If the dinosaur gets free, the dinosaur will essentially be attacked by the Charaka and probably take out at least 3 or 4 of them. I think it says by the book, it'll just take out a few of them naturally. And that's kind of the thing. If you have everything fight the players at the same time, the players will get crushed. Especially if they come here too early and they haven't gotten the level ups that they should be when they get here. I think they should have leveled up at least twice in this book before they get to the mines, because the rock will be, I think a rock is a level 9 encounter, and that can be a pretty rough encounter for someone who's not ready for it. Combine that with the Charaka Berserkers, who are basically glass cannons and do tons of damage, and they do take a lot of damage themselves back. They have low ACs, but being raged, they can do a lot of damage and can quickly knock down your party's front line. So be careful with the mines. The mines are a dangerous place if your party goes there earlier than they should be going there. The fourth one is one that this gives you a good roleplay opportunity, but you need to do it right. And this is Gerhard Pendergrast. Gerhard Pendergrast is your typical explorer, kind of colonial explorer coming to the jungle to write his own book, get fame. He's a very much of a Gilderoy Lockhart type character, where his books are basically baked and he kind of writes stories based on things he's done, but half of them is really not true. Now, there's 2 instances where you can face him. The first instance is alone, kind of with one of these totems, and he'll eventually kind of like run away if he gets too low. Eventually going to the next part, which is the temple, which is where he tries to blow up this temple by essentially planting bombs there. He does have a gun. He does have a blunderbuss. So he's the first person in this game to have an actual weapon way before guns and gears have been released. That being said, the book as written gives you this idea, and I'm not joking. This is what it says in the book. If Gerhard dies in the first encounter, you can replace him in the second encounter with his brother, Gerhard. They literally just take the G off the name and say, go with Gerhard. That's not a name. It isn't a name. Please don't do that. Just don't. I don't care what you have to do. Just don't. Ideally, Gerhard should run away from the first encounter. If it's going from pillars to temple, he automatically recognizes the players the second time and doesn't kid around, and will start to burn the temple down as fast as he can. His blunderbuss does have a cone effect, so he can hit the TNT barrels to blow the whole place up. He's a good encounter, and my party love to hate this NPC because he really represents that smug colonial type character who just wants to destroy ancient civilizations for his own fame and fortune. But please, rename him if you have to. Do whatever you can. don't do the Gerhard to Erhard thing. That is just a bad idea. I'm sorry. Bad idea. The last final tip I kind of want to talk about for this book is, of course, the fortress itself, the cult fortress. Now, there's a lot going on in this fortress. And I'm going to start with the exterior of this fortress, which basically is, and it's hard to tell if you're using the actual Paizo maps or if you're using maybe custom maps, but the fortress itself is actually kind of its own little island, and it's surrounded by deep water. So they can't actually walk to it. They have to essentially take a boat or raft there. The water does have a dangerous alligator inside it. That's kind of the outside exterior threat, which would, I believe, it doesn't alert any of the guards because the guards are used to the alligator hunting things nearby. So that's going to be a tough encounter on the outside. The main thing is the main final encounter. And this is against the leader of the cultists and a few of her allies, as well as this massive skull adorned on the wall. Now this skull is, I'm not going to say too much about it because it is spoilers, but this skull does have abilities. It does attack. Each eye can shoot out a beam that does damage. Keep that in mind. It has 2 attacks. If the players disarm or deactivate one of the eyes, the other eye can still shoot. And I believe it does pure fire damage. So at this point, there's a lot of fire damage has been going about, so your players probably have fire resistance up. If not, it may be a tough time. The other part that's in this room is there's a dragon that's actually tied down in chains in the center of the room. Now, it is a red dragon, and it is a bit cautious, and you want to be careful about it. But it is actually a friendly red dragon in this example, and if they are able to free it and kind of heal it, it can kind of possibly help them in the fight. Or if they're lucky, they can keep it alive. Now, keeping the dragon alive may have repercussions or may have benefits in the future books that I will not spoil. This is could be an important NPC for the players to get to know, or at least keep in mind of. So if this dragon does get to kind of do its spiel and speak after the fact, make sure to play up this dragon. This dragon will possibly come back in a future book to talk about other things. This will make it more momentous when your party goes, oh yeah, I remember that dragon. We saved him and now he's doing this for us. That kind of moment, that kind of cool NPC moment when the players can see their hard work has paid off and they've actually been able to help a character and get something down the road from it. Is really good. Those are my tips and kind of tricks talking about the Cult of Cinders book. Hope you guys have enjoyed this little guide talking about it. Let me know if you have played this book yet, if you're running Age of Ashes now. Let me know your thoughts, questions down in the comments below. While you're there, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more Pathfinder 2nd edition content. And thank you guys for enjoying this video.